Jack Kennedy was naturally predisposed to task-oriented forward action.
Long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
Jack wanted to win, but his reality was that he was sick and weak, and his older brother Joe, the family favorite, always won. So this pushed Jack into a backward role. To keep from losing, Jack withdrew from competition and acted as if he didn't care. At Choate, Jack made poor grades. His room was always sloppy. He was lazy and careless in his work, and a poor speller. This man was J.J. Marr, Jack's Choate disciplinarian. He lived on the same hall as the boys, and was very tough on Jack. The two hated each other. During a lecture to the student body, the dean of the school mentioned that the worst kind of boy he knew was what he called a mucker, and if he knew who these Choate muckers were, he'd expel them. At the time, mucker was an ethnic slur against common Irish labor workers. As Kennedy was the only Irish Catholic at the school, it is very likely that the slur was directed at him. So what did Kennedy do? He promptly started the Muckers Club. Members wore gold-embroidered shovels on their jackets. The club rivaled the official student government for legitimacy. This demonstrates Jack's forward abilities, even if they were masked in backward irreverence.
For Kennedy, every day was a gift, and he didn't want to waste a moment. And that was the attitude he brought to the presidency. Every minute that you're president is a gift, and no single minute can be wasted.
To both Jack Kennedy and President JFK, the fundamental problem of governing a democracy was psychological: how to overcome the inertia inherent in man's nature.
In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course.
He knew what it meant to be apathetic and unawake. Only those who have slept can know what is required to awaken.
William Bradford, speaking in 1630 of the founding of the Plymouth Bay Colony, said that all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulties, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people.
Forward backwardsness gave JFK the legitimacy to ask a nation to sacrifice. From his past, Kennedy earned the warrants, authority, and experience to call an apathetic nation to action. Joe could not have asked a nation for this, nor could have Kennedy without Joe's influence. And certainly not Richard Nixon. Old iron-butted gloomy Gus could never have asked a nation to give or go to the moon and received a commensurate response.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there. Well, space is there, and we're going to climb it. And the moon and the planets are there, and new hopes for knowledge and peace are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. Thank you.
Because of his unique maturation as a backward, Kennedy becomes something of a great man. In his article, Role in the Role of Conflict, Robert Bales writes that most often two complementary leaders are needed to lead effectively. One who is task-oriented, or forward, to keep things on track, and one who is a socio-emotional comforter, or backward, to make everyone feel good. Kennedy had both of these qualities. He could offer ideas as a task-oriented leader, but also maintain the emotional connect, popularity, and force to make them well received. He was not just a task leader, or a socio-emotional leader, but a rare and coveted mix, what Bales calls a great man.
And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
What sort of captured the essence of, I thought, my brother's appeal, and that was he was giving the American people, and really people around the world that were listening, not a set of promises, but really a set of challenges.
I'm not sure he felt he could have been elected if people knew how sick he was. And secondly, he was promoting the new frontier. He was supposed to be a vigorous guy, and to find out that he had this level of medical problem would have negated, I think, to some extent, the image that they were portraying.
The extent of Kennedy's physical problems put his drive and determination in perspective.
The most important thing about John Kennedy was that he thought he was going to die young, and he could not wait his turn. And he didn't wait his turn. He got the presidency at a very young age because he didn't think he was going to be around at an old age. And how he did that and how he got through those days made no difference to him.
He has, coming up to 56, colitis. He has prostatitis, urethritis, sinusitis, and these are the things that he is hospitalized for between 55 and 57. He can't go up a staircase directly the way someone with normal flexibility can. He can barely turn over in bed at night. He can't pull the shoe and sock on his left foot because of his back malady.
When Jack was asked if he wanted his son to grow up to be president, he replied, "I just want him to be healthy."
Kennedy had sought out Max Jacobson, a controversial New York doctor. He was known as Dr. Feelgood among the Hollywood stars who used him. Kennedy specifically sent for him before the first televised debate against Richard Nixon. His relaxed, confident performance was in part a result of drugs administered by Dr. Jacobson.
My guess is, and Robert Kennedy certainly told me this as well, that John Kennedy was in pain every day of his life. It only mattered, I think, internally, in the sense that it drove him to be more careless and more reckless than a man who expected to live into his 70s or 80s might be. Robert Kennedy became worried about what is the president actually taking? What the hell is this he's injecting into his own legs every day? What kind of pills is he taking? So Bobby basically raided his medicine chest and took some of the vials in there and took them out to the FBI lab to have them analyzed. What he found out was that, at least in this case, the president was taking amphetamines, was taking speed. It was not illegal then. It was only restricted as a drug, but Bobby found out enough to know that this stuff can kill you, and it killed a lot of people, and he confronted his brother about it, and Jack Kennedy said, I don't give a damn if it's horse piss. It makes me feel better, and I need that. Now get the hell out of here.